Greetings, my dear friends. A very, very happy new year, the year of the Lord 2021. The last year, 2020, was a most dramatic year, a year unlike any other that we have seen thus far. This also marked the end of a decade. A new decade has started on the 1st of Jan. COVID was a world shaping event. It brought about a major reset as far as the new world order is concerned. Lockdowns became the new mantra. Stay safe became the new greeting which most people did. Nationalism became very acute and nations became more and more insular. Self reliance, Atmanirbharta, came into focus. Welfare state, the concept gained much more traction in this year. The old Bretton Woods institutions, the WHO, the United Nations, the IMF, World Bank, they all started getting questioning because they were not delivering what they were set out for. Trade and technology became the dominant centerpieces of the New World Order. There was a shift in the rate and the scope of change. The scope of change marked by a belligerent China on one end and a US which was seen to be withdrawing it into its own shell. Mind boggling changes happened. But were these changes visible? Indeed, they were. Global crisis, the leadership crisis, actually, had already started. The United States was looking increasingly inwards. China was rising and rising at a very rapid rate. Europe was having its own crisis, and Brexit added to the confusion there. The concept of Indo Pacific started getting more and more clear, and the Quad started emerging from the shadows. COVID entered, accelerated all this change and the rate of change, and China suddenly, from a peaceful giant and the peaceful rise, became very belligerent. The US China Cold War is today a reality. The latest document from the United States State Department on China is quite remarkable. It actually conjures an image which is akin to the Soviet Union back in the age old days, where George Kennan in 1946 wrote on the USSR and how it is a threat to the US. Post COVID, there has been a major pushback against China. The world order is changing. And in this changing world order, what does the year 2021 have for us? Welcome to Jack Simplifies, your channel to demystify and simplify complex geopolitical issues. I, Commander Chakrapani, or Chax, am your host. In this episode, we will look at the momentous changes that have happened and the emerging geopolitical challenges for the year 2021 with particular focus on India. So, what are the top 5 geopolitical challenges as far as India is concerned for 2021? Dealing with China, balancing our relationship with China remains in focus. Our neighborhood with Pakistan and Bangladesh, Maldives and Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Afghanistan, Iran, all of them have a major role to play as far as we are concerned. Shifting little westwards, the Middle East. The Middle East is changing significantly, and Turkey is adding to the confusion there. Further west is Europe, and how do we balance our relationship with Europe? And further is the United States. The elections of United States has thrown up very staggering results. While Joe Biden did become the president of the United States, Trump has left his own legacy. Not a very happy legacy, although, but a legacy nonetheless, a legacy of confusion. So let's start with China. China, like I said, remains our top most complex geopolitical challenge. China is colluding with Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan in many ways is today the client state of China. Our borders with China and Pakistan will continue to remain hot. I don't see any major change out here. China has already made forays into Ladakh. We are at a stalemate there, arguably slightly better off than China, but China is still not defeated. It can come back and react in Arunachal or in the central sector. The trade war is on with India. We have banned numerous apps, over 300 of them. We have brought in restrictions on Chinese companies. We are engaging our own industry across the world to shift into India, make India the centerpiece of the new world global supply chains. We are decreasing our dependence on China in key sectors from pharmaceutical to manufacturing. A number of companies are getting attracted to India, and there are threats that possibly China is trying to disrupt this whole thing. And in this context, the issue that happened in the Apple industries in Bangalore is a case in point. There are already a number of Indian seamen who are stuck at various ports in China, and China is playing hardball. China, at the same time, has to manage internal problems that it has in the country, from challenges to its own internal economy to its own food crisis. The water crisis, or the crisis brought out by rivers and the availability of fresh water in China. And of course, we have to manage the internal challenges that have been sponsored or brought about because of collusion between Pakistan and China. What happens as far as Tibet is concerned, especially post the Dalai Lama stage? The South China Sea, the Quad, these are all issues that we will have to deal with as we go into 2021. Let's move on to Pakistan. Pakistan is in trouble. It is sinking to new lows. So is our relationship. Whether Pakistan continues fuming at Article 370 and we abrogated it, it has tried to raise this issue in the various fora, has been singularly unsuccessful, but has not stopped trying. The line of control and the international boundary remains hot. There have been numerous ceasefire violations and attempts to push terrorists into India. The internal situation in Pakistan has never been more severe. Balochistan is on the boil. The Hazaras are in protest. The opposition is getting extraordinary support and, surprisingly, is naming the Pak army as the reason why Pakistan is where it is today. The sword of FATF is hanging. Pakistan is already on the grey list, and you never know when it will go on to the blacklist. It has China and Turkey to help, but not much help seems to be coming on its way. The relationship of Pakistan with the Gulf states, which at one time were the best, are probably at their worst right now. Saudi Arabia has asked for its loan of billions of dollars back. It has turned off the oil supply, and therefore China is its only succor. Turkey has its own problems, but Pakistan has not stopped cozying up to Turkey, and there are rumors that Pak and Turkey have entered into a nuclear cooperation as much. There has been some news of sale of nuclear technology to Turkey. Whether it is Sri Lanka, well, we've had, and Sri Lanka has openly propounded the India first policy, and India has propounded the neighborhood first policy. Both these policies have been well received as far as Sri Lanka is concerned. India is trying its best to reduce the dependence on China as far as Sri Lanka is concerned. And as recent as yesterday, Sri Lanka has given approval for the new terminal which will be built with a joint venture Sri Lanka, Japan, and India. India continues to play on the fears of Sri Lanka, whether it is the Hanampota port terminal or it is the Colombo container terminal, and the effects of long term Chinese deals. With Nepal, we've had, as was described, roti beti ki rishtedari. Yet, recently, Kalapani and Lipule and the changes in the map of Nepal have brought in a fair amount of discord. China is actively meddling in Nepalese politics. India is following the strategy of silence. There have been recently high level visits from India into Nepal and vice versa, and it does seem the relationship seems to be emerging from its depths. With Bangladesh, we probably have our best relationship with the neighbors. The railway connection through Bangladesh into our northeast is soon going to be a reality. China is definitely trying to make inroads, but as of now, it has not been very successful. There are minor irritants as far as Bangladesh is concerned. With Myanmar, our relationship has been on the upswing, very visibly upswing. India has just handed over a submarine, a kilo class submarine to Myanmar, and that has been commissioned in the Myanmar Navy. There are almost a $1 billion investments by India into Myanmar. The coastal shipping through the Sitwe port will help ease out our connectivity issues, especially with Mizoram in the northeast. And of course, the COVID diplomacy is going to be a major cornerstone, whether it is to do with medicines or the vaccine. India's neighborhood first policy as well as Maldives' India first policy are again very welcome here. Maldives actually spoke for India in the recent OIC meet thwarting Pakistan's designs. India is sponsoring a little over $1 billion worth of infrastructure in Maldives and has promised assistance, whether it is to do with COVID or with vaccine. With Afghanistan, we have a very long standing relationship, over $3 billion of investment. Yet, India is very wary of the new great game which is being played in Afghanistan. China on one hand, Russia on the other, Pakistan, Iran meddling in, the Taliban seeming to gain an upper hand, and the US withdrawing. All this will have long term effects as far as India is concerned and as far as Afghanistan is concerned. The conduct of Taliban, and it does seem that Taliban will end up making the next government in Afghanistan. Its conduct and relationships with India will obviously usher in new highs or new lows. The advent of Joe Biden as a president is likely to see major changes as far as our relationship with Iran is concerned. It is quite possible that the US will remove the embargo, the sanctions on Iran, and therefore our relationship can get back on even keel, especially with respect to oil. The Chabahar port has been kept out of this sanctions, yet look at China. $800 billion worth of investment it has secured by offering a swap with oil. That way, it reduces its dependence on the Malacca Straits and the South China Sea as far as oil is concerned. Silkworm missiles have been transferred to Iran by China. Pakistan is trying to act as a conduit as far as Iran is concerned and build the China-Pak, Iran, Turkey axis. Joe Biden, of course, will help, hopefully, lure China, or rather lure Iran away from China. But let's see how it goes moving forward. Let's take a look at the Indian Ocean region. China is, as you're all aware, continues with the string of pearls strategy. It is moving or trying to move to get bases in Maldives, not successful. Sri Lanka, partially successful with Hanam Tota. Myanmar, so far not successful. Bangladesh. The BRI and the checkbook diplomacy of China seems to be having some results in its favor. But this is where Chinese problems of money and its own economy floundering inside China will play a role. China uses financial colonization and Africa is learning at its peril. Of as recently as the last couple of weeks, remote vessels have been found, or underwater remote vessels have been found in the Sunda Straits. Greater number of Chinese research vessels are available in the Indian Ocean region, and China seems to be building its navy in a very big way and very fast. Let's move further. Look at the Middle East. Middle East is changing and changing dramatically. Is it because of the change of leadership in US? Quite possibly. But that is the first thing that has happened. The outgoing Trump regime has been able to get peace deals with Israel, as they are called the Abrahamic Accords. There have been momentous accords that have been signed with the Gulf states. Could not have been done without Saudi Arabia's tacit acceptance. The Saudi-Iran rivalry is, or rather is at the Cold War stage. The impact of falling oil prices, the need for greater appeasement of the population is going to be driving the Middle East regimes up the wall. Reconciliation of relationships with Qatar, as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, is a momentous one. Is it because of Joe Biden? Probably. But it has suddenly made the GCC complete all over again. The joker in the pack out here is Turkey. Turkey is vying for the leadership of the Islamic nations. Saudi Arabia is unlikely to accept. And at the same time, Turkey has its own problems with NATO, Greece, Europe, France. Its activities in Libya are drawing attention. So are its activities in Syria. Russia also is not too happy with Turkey, especially with its meddling in Azerbaijan, where Russia sadly has suffered a little bit of loss of face. Moving on to Europe, if you really see, Europe is possibly finding itself in a bit of a limp. On one hand, it has China, which is huge. Relationship with China is rocky. Yet, Germany has gone ahead and secured a deal for itself with China. Turkey is causing needless problems. At the same time, the effect of Brexit are going to be for a long time to happen. There is this tussle between the liberal Europe and the insular nationalistic Europe. The reaction of this part of Europe, especially the nationalistic Europe with China, is going to be very interesting. France and Britain, as well as Germany, are angling for a role in the Indo Pacific. And France definitely has a major stake as far as this is concerned. Right? So let's get back now to the US elections. Never before has such a major impact been felt or is expected to have been to happen post the US elections in history, especially after the defeat of Donald Trump and Joe Biden emerging victorious. On one hand, China expects Joe Biden to be more accommodative. It may allow or it wants the trade war fears to recede and wants the US to accept the rise of China and revert to status quo. Trump, before leaving, has tried to ensure all of this does not happen. Europe wants Joe Biden to come back to Europe first stance of the US and focus more on Europe. It wants the US to reassume leadership as far as the world is concerned and also, more importantly, pay for NATO expenses. It expects the US to come back to the Paris Climate Accord. Iran has great expectations too. A return to discussion and the ratification of the Iran nuclear deal, the lifting of sanctions, improving trade relationship of Iran across the globe as a result of removal of sanctions is likely to happen. The Middle East, especially Saudi Arabia, fears greater scrutiny from the Democrats, especially post Joe Biden, a scrutiny of the war in Yemen, or the killing of Khashoggi, or the actions on Sunni Islamic groups. It fears the lifting of sanctions as far as Iran is concerned. And one visible change you can see here is the mending of fences with Qatar. India itself has numerous apprehensions. What is going to be the stance of Joe Biden as far as trade is concerned? How about Kashmir? CA, NRC? Will the sanctions be attracted as far as the purchase of S-400 from Russia is concerned? What is going to be the overall policy of the US with India, whether it is to do with external relations, Quad, neighborhood, or internally? What will the effect of US-China relations on India? A $1 million question. Most of the Indo-Pacific is waiting to see the effect of Joe Biden on the Quad. Will the US continue its belligerence against China, or will this die down? The ASEAN is hedging its bets. See how quickly RCEP was accepted and cleared because China wanted to ring fence its own economy. The implications of withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan are going to be reasonably dramatic. Right, so what happens from here on? How will the new world order look like? What will be the changes that will happen with the Bretton Woods institutions like the United Nations, WHO, IMF? Remember, the Prime Minister Modi did say in the recent UN Assembly, how long will India wait? India can't wait forever. Dealing with China is one part of the story. Preparedness to meet new challenges is the second part. Is there going to be a more weaponization of biological agents? People are already looking with suspicion as far as China is concerned with fresh outbreaks there, and in India with bird flu raising its head again. Religious extremism will continue to happen, especially on one hand in the Islamic world, in the Middle East, and take China as the other example, where you have whatever is happening in the Xinjiang province. The innocence of China is dead. So is non alignment. Arms control agreements, which have just about expired or going to expire, like the START, will have to be renegotiated. How will these happen? With Russia playing hardball and an axis seemingly developing between Russia and China. Technology, especially access to technology, is going to be the new oil. Data, even more important. Technology, really speaking, will continue to underpin the US Chinese relationships. China is racing to achieve supremacy in cutting edge technology, whether it is artificial intelligence or space, quantum computing, drones, or deep sea mining techniques. It is dominating the US value chain, the global value chain, supply chains for critical materials. All this is likely to change in the near future. The global economy has taken a bad hit in 2020. Punish China may well become the buzzword. Questions of whether globalization is the right strategy going forward, or you will now start decoupling yourself from the global supply chains and become more Atmanirbhar, self reliant. Will vaccine diplomacy, especially if India plays its cards right, will vaccine diplomacy become the new mantra for 2021 and going forward? So, gentlemen, we continue to live in very interesting times. As always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not already done so, and click on the bell button to be notified of all my new videos. Please do feel free to share, like, and comment. And as always, I wait anxiously for your comments.